Two things jumped out at me about Steve Smith and his bawling his eyes out at that press conference and his suspension over the ball tampering in that game against South Africa. First thing that jumps out is the punishments. And here's a ball tampering article from Wikipedia, and it's got a list of some instances there, and I'll just focus on the punishments. A £2,000 fine for Michael Atherton, Waqar Yin at 50% of his match fee, Rahul Dravid 50%. Keeps going. That's about what they get. South Africa versus Australia. This is one of the latest ones, 2016. So the South African was fined his match fee from his second test. Whereas you go to this incident here that happened earlier on this year, and go down to the bottom, Steve Smith and David Warner, who didn't actually tamper with the ball, they were given 12 months suspensions from international and domestic cricket. And that is just way over the top. Now, they don't mention whether they received the match payments obviously have been taken away, but they're on contracts. So whether they lose all that money from their contract, nothing has been definitively said. And just while I'm at this website here, Malcolm Turnbull also got involved, and he's a character that we all know well. So that's one thing that jumps out. I've heard this mentioned before, but watch what Steve Smith does here. What he did there is remarkably similar to this famous effort. Robbie Parker went on to fake cry, and we'll just watch a bit more of Steve Smith.
I'll do everything I can to make up for my mistake and the damage it's caused.
Well, as we can see, the tears weren't really coming as hard as he tried. And then he tries to prep himself again, as actors do, before they try and fake cry with that breath and get into the scene. And throughout this interview, he never really quite gets there. He does. I'll just play a little bit more, but not too much more. But you can see that he never quite gets to the crying part as hard as he tries. But he was trying to cry in this interview.
If any good can come of this, if it can be a lesson to others, then I hope I can be a force for change.
He tried for a third time to try and cry. It just wasn't happening for him, and the cameras were there. There's not much he could do except to soldier on without the tears. But that's what was in the script. So we can see that it's all scripted. So the second part is that he seems to be acting out, trying to cry, making out like there's this huge crime being committed, and it was just something terrible, when really it's a one-match ban. It's what he should have got, which also him and Warner didn't challenge. They had up until a certain time to appeal it, and of course they never were going to. Because I actually think, and some may disagree with me on this, I actually think, because I look back at the time and I thought, look, this is some kind of psyop. And I didn't do a video on it at the time because I couldn't really figure it out until there's been a latest update on the news story. So we'll just get to that.
Suspended Australian cricketer Steve Smith has revealed the extent of his personal pain and sadness following the ball tampering scandal.
Okay, so 2 months later, it's been dragged out again because there he is crying in that vision to the right. It must have been in another interview, not that one that I just played, but it takes him a while to cry. And look, back like I said back then, I couldn't really see what this was all about. But now this story has now come to light. So why is he bothering to tell us that it's still ongoing? And we'll find out a bit more information.
The former captain was speaking at Sydney's prestigious Knox Grammar School, helping to raise awareness about mental health.
So due to that suspension that he got, probably still on full pay off his contract, he's now got 12 months free. But isn't it fortunate that he can now go into schools and do talks on mental illness? Now, the problem is, he wasn't declared mentally ill. He has no experience with mental illness. He's not medically trained. All he was a cheat. He started bawling his eyes out. So I think the actual psyop here is to get him into schools because young boys will listen to him. They're not going to listen to some government clinician or some public servant, but he's an Australian captain. And I think that's what this was designed for, to get Steve Smith in, talking about how he blubbered and how it's okay for boys to blubber on. Because it's undisputed that the media, every TV show, every advertisement, every current affairs story, every news story is geared towards making men look like useless idiots. And one of the things they want to try and do is make men less masculine and make them more feminized, more in touch with their feelings, which isn't a good thing for boys or men, because when men are confronted with a problem, they don't start bawling their eyes out like women. They look at the problem and they try and fix it. And blubbering only hinders your ability to do that. Weighing into your emotions stops the intellectual part of your brain from figuring things out. And I think that he's trying to say, going into schools, look, it's okay for boys to blubber and show their emotions. If the only selling point of him going into schools was to tell boys that you can just blubber away and don't worry about trying to fix problems and focus on anything, just let your tears flow, boys, like I did in front of the cameras, and he's the Australian cricket captain, the boys will look up to him. A lot of principals wouldn't allow it. Sensible ones would say, look, we need some kind of benefit, educational benefit for the kids. So that's why they've attached this mental anguish side to it. Now, he wasn't mentally anguished. He was just a cheat, supposedly. I don't even think he was, to be honest, he was part of it, who got caught. And then in front of the cameras, had to try a few times, but he finally got there, managed to get out some tears because he was acting it out.
Still very much a hero to these students. Steve Smith is mobbed at Knox Grammar after opening up about the darkest days of his life.
To be honest, I probably spent 4 days in tears.
Here he is, begging on about his tears again. He couldn't really get him out in the interview. He a few times, but couldn't really do it. So he's just telling them, I was in tears for 4 days. And that's the message he's given to boys in high school. Now, he's not doing it on his own. They're only using him because he was the Australian cricket captain, and these boys will listen to him. Now, the guy on the right, that's Gus Worland. We'll get on to him.
Tears that flowed from the time the ball tampering story broke in South Africa until that harrowing media conference at home.
Here he finally got the tears out. And look, yeah, we get it. He's a crybaby and he's the captain of Australia. Look, I guarantee you, if he had have displayed any of this weakness, and he's not weak, by the way, I've heard a few stories about this guy, he's really ruthless, he would not be captain of Australia. He would not have been captain of anything if he started breaking down at some ball tampering. Oh, someone said your shoes weren't shiny. He'd start bawling his eyes out, would he? He's very fragile. No. This is trying to make boys weak.
Felt a little bit sorry for me, and that's when I started to feel a little bit better about myself.
And look at that other bullshit message that he just slipped in there. He said that he didn't still start feeling better about himself until the media felt sorry for him. So he's trying to make out like the media what you are judged by. Oh, they're trusted. They could be trusted to judge people, and they judged me to be bad, and I felt bad, and then they judged me to be good, and then I felt good. It's just another bullshit message that he's thrown in there. And there's Gus in the background. We'll get to him now.
The suspended cricket star was supporting radio personality Gus Worland's Gotcha for Life program.
This is the Gotcha for Life website that Gus Worland runs. And he was there with Steve during the presentation at Knox. And here's their news. Cricketers have Gotcha for Life. This is back in December 12th, before the ball tampering. Oh, they seem to have a bit of a cricketing connection before Steve Smith became available. Well, that was handy. I just scroll down a couple of things that they do. Gotcha for Life in schools. Here it is. One of the key aims of Gotcha for Life is to reach into schools and help our young men grow into mentally healthy adults. Well, there's a reason why boys are in trouble in school, and it's a reason why it's happening just now. First of all, there's only female teachers, no male role models. Secondly, a lot of marriages are broken up for varying reasons. It's got here, something has gone horribly wrong in Australian society. Well, it certainly has, and it's been planned ever since the Lima Agreement back in 1976, when they just started signing trade deals in secret that we can't see, and all of the male jobs have been sent overseas. We have no more cars, they're shutting down power stations. We all know that. It has been carefully contrived and executed, and that's what's happening in Australia. So something has gone horribly wrong, and it's affecting males. Now, one of the things that they're concerned about is that if males who fight wars and set up borders and traditionally act out and assert themselves in a masculine way will affect change. And one of the ways they want to counter that, of course, is to make men more feminine, more, they're always being portrayed that in media, and they're always being trained as hopeless and always told to have conversations like this website here. So rather than fix the problem of getting jobs back and having a proper role model, or have a proper role for men in Australia, because that's been taken away, absolutely been taken away. They're trying to make it like it's still there. It is there for the real higher ups, but look, the amount of unemployment, particularly, and Turnbull's still trying to drive up power prices to get rid of manufacturing. It's an ongoing, it's the international banks just want to destroy men, not just in Australia, but in Western countries. So they're solution isn't to solve the problem. Their solution is to blub about it. Because if you just blubber about it, then no one takes back the country. That's what they're concerned about. Absolutely. These guys, and look, they're making it like, and look, it's a tragedy. A lot of guys are topping themselves. And it's because their marriages are breaking down because they don't have jobs. They don't have any money. They're hungry. They don't have jobs. It all comes down to jobs and these trade deals and these international banks just wanting to own and control all of our resources and all of our labour, particularly labour of our children and grandchildren. But these guys have jumped on it. Look how much money they've made. 233,000, Chemist Warehouse there. So they raise a lot of money. Now, this is a charity. Gus doing his bit for blokes. I'll bet he is. Okay, let's just have a bit more. Everyone's on board. Okay, so they make it like they have some kind of mental health program going. Well, let's just see if they have any kind of, there's their advisory board. Let's see if there's one doctor on this advisory board. Now, you would think there would be, given mental illness is a medical condition. Our advisory board, okay, there's Gus. What's he? He's just a Lifeline ambassador. Okay, it's not a medical person. Gareth Pike, we'll get to him in a minute. Read that Aval Group coordinator. We'll get to that in a sec. He was with Gloria Jeans. He's a failed business guy. He's successful here, but he has failed in the past. Mike Charter, entrepreneur, not medical. A film producer. He's a risk manager. There's Hugh Jackman. Does Hugh even know that he's an advisor here? There's Lucy Dunn. Now she's a fundraiser. She's not she's not even a counsellor. And here's Chemist Warehouse. They're an advocate for men's mental health, but none of them are medically trained. So I think that's important. Now, what also is important, if we come down here at the address, Gotcha for Life, Aval Group. Oh no, just before we do, let's have a quick look at role of the advisory board. Our advisory board provides non-binding strategic advice and support of the directors of an organisation. This includes provide wise counsel. So this seems a bit strange for supposedly a mental health charity, but if we go to the Aval website, so here we are at the Aval Group, and what we do, we're business growth experts. So they're just a business company at the same address has set up this charity. So let's just go back to the advisory board, and they have absolutely no medical qualifications at all. So even though they've attached the mental health angle to Steve Smith so that he can then get into schools, they don't actually have any medical backgrounds at all. So it's dodgy on quite a few fronts.
It's about teaching everyone that, you know, as a man, it's okay to show emotion.
A message he'll spread to more schools as part of the community service component of his 12-month suspension.
So does any person for 1 second that he's doing actual community service, as in like what criminals get given, they have to do community service? That's what they're trying to tie it to. For what? Not even ball tampering, just being a part of a ball tampering scandal where some guy got a one-match fee ban. He's got 12 months and he's got community service. So that just makes it less believable. In fact, it makes it entirely unbelievable, the official story that they're trying to give. Because basically what we've got is we've got the cricket captain of Australia, very influential, over a 12-month period going into boys' schools, and he conveniently has had an episode where he was on TV blubbing away. He can now tell the boys that it's okay to blub away, and he's not backed by anyone with any medical training or medical qualifications. Now that's important because it is proven, all that stuff that's on that website isn't backed by any medical research where they say it's good for boys to talk about things, it's good for boys to weigh into their emotions. Nobody knows that. They need to do studies on it. And I actually think they would find that it would be unhealthy because boys don't naturally, and men don't naturally aren't emotional. And when they're encouraged to do it or it's dragged out of it, they end up just, they're just not how they're meant to be. Look, there is a crisis for men in Western countries, and it's been created on purpose for a reason. And if they really wanted to reverse that crisis, they would reverse all the trade deals, bring back the jobs so the men could work the local resources, whatever they needed to do so they could have the jobs. Stop all these quota programs from the government that are designed to drive men out of jobs and put women into them. And that would be the way to solve the crisis. But of course, that's the exact opposite of what they want to do. And to get away with it, they get the Australian cricket captain, make up some phony ball tampering scandal so he blubs on TV, specifically so we can spend 12 months going into our schools. Well, look, if I get advance warning that this absolute sellout, pretend crybaby, look, he's really ruthless, this guy, by the way. There's some people I know that have had a bit to do with him, and he doesn't cry over anything, I guarantee it. But he's acting out this role here. So if this sellout, this fraud turns up at the school where my kids go, I'm just going to make sure they're sick that day or have them out of school. There's no way I want this guy giving that message to my boys, that's for sure.
2 months down and counting. Hopefully by the time I get back to the game, I'm fresh and ready to perform at a really high level again.
So that little bit at the end, that kind of seals it for me. He's been guaranteed the captaincy back. And you can bet there's going to be all this bullshit emotional return of Steve Smith, and it's going to be all ceremonial and emotional. It's going to be absolutely sickening. Just turning sport, which is just a competition that used to be good to watch, into this big emotional, ridiculous show, just freak show. That's what all these sports are becoming. So that's it then. Steve Smith gets 12 months off on full pay. I dare say he'd still be getting his Cricket Australia contract money, same as David Warner. And they got 12 months to just go around doing this, keeping themselves fit, probably on an enhanced payment schedule. It's doing community service. He's being punished for something that someone has got a one match ban on. He's been punished for 12 months doing community. What an absolute load of rubbish this whole Steve Smith thing is. Like I said, from what I've heard about him, he's not that good with kids, and he's a bit of a dickhead.
Alex Hart, 7 News.